Hi everyone. I decided to talk about the state of Tennessee versus John Scopes, or as it's more commonly known, the Scopes monkey trial. I've always been interested and fascinated with the complex relationships that science and religion seem to have and how they always seem to be at odds with each other. And this was certainly true of the Scopes trial. The Scopes trial begins with the Butler Act that was passed by the Tennessee General Assembly March 13, 1925. The Butler Act stated that it shall be unlawful for any teacher in any of the universities and any other public schools of the state to teach the theory that denies the story of the divine creation of man as taught in the Bible, and to teach instead that man has descended from a lower order of animals. The Scopes trial was initiated by the leadership of the American Civil Liberties Union, or the ACLU, in New York City. The ACLU became alarmed over the anti-evolution bills that were being introduced all over the country. Over 20 state legislators had acts very similar to the Butler Act in the early 1920s. Eventually, the ACLU decided that Tennessee would be the place where they would launch this kind of movement to get all these bills repealed. And John Scopes was chosen as their scapegoat. The craziest part about this is that John Scopes had little or no interest in science or evolution, and his only credential was a small time as a substitute teacher in a science classroom. The whole basis for him being a part of this was that a textbook, Hunter's Civic Biology, was in the classroom where he was substituting, and it did cover evolution. The textbook speculated that in his early history, man must have been little better than one of the lower animals. John Scopes was arrested and immediately released on bail. The Christian lawyer / politician William Jennings Bryan was asked to serve as the head of the prosecution. And famous criminal lawyer and outspoken atheist Clarence Darrow was asked to head the defense team. Bryan was well informed about the creation-evolution controversy and regularly corresponded with scientists of his time on the evidence for and against evolution. While Bryan was a staunch creationist and a strong critic of biological evolution, he did accept geological evolution, and the age of the earth. In his autobiography, The Memoirs of William Jennings Bryan, Bryan stated that his objectives in the Scopes trial were to establish the right of taxpayers to control what is taught in their schools, and to draw a line between teaching evolution as a fact and teaching it as a theory. Clarence Darrow, on the other hand, was an immensely successful criminal lawyer who specialized in defending unpopular people and radical causes. His agnostic convictions led him to believe that man's actions were ultimately just the result of body chemistry, and that the concepts of good and evil were essentially meaningless. In his autobiography, The Story of My Life, Darrow explained his purpose for participating in the Scopes trial. My object, and my only object, was to focus the attention of the country on the program of Mr. Bryan and other fundamentalists in America. The Scopes trial took place in July of 1925 in the little town of Dayton, and it lasted for about 12 days, from July 10th through the 21st. Clarence Darrow actually questioned William Jennings Bryan and kind of belittled him and berated him the whole time while he was on the witness stand. I get such a contrasting picture of this in my mind. On the one hand, you have Clarence Darrow, who's kind of, berating and kind of yelling almost at William Jennings Bryan. Things like, can you really believe that Eve was created from Adam's rib? Or, can you really believe that the earth was created in 6 days? And on the other side, you have William Jennings Bryan, who just very calmly, defended the word of the Bible as fact. Technically, the only legal issue in the Scopes trial was, did Scopes violate the Butler Act by teaching evolution? but it turned into so much more than that. It became less about the science and more about the religion. The question became, should evolution be taught in schools? The downfall of this, I think, was that Clarence Darrow and his team didn't really know enough about evolution to be able to defend it, and say why it should be taught in schools. John Scopes was found guilty of violating the Butler Act. He was given a fine, but he was subsequently acquitted by the Tennessee Supreme Court on a technicality. The Butler Act itself was repealed in 1967 in Epperson versus the state of Arkansas. So today, because of this event, evolution is taught in our public schools. Thank you.